Hey, this is Alec. Welcome to White Whale Comics. So today, what I wanted to do was to go over my top 10 covers of the year for 2018. It's going to be actually a list of 15, as I am wont to do, because I can never be decisive enough to cut down my list to just 10. So I always have a few honorable mentions if you have ever seen some of my other lists. And I haven't done one of these pre-recorded videos in a while, and it's a little weird just kind of talking to myself alone. But the advantage is I can do stuff like this. Let's just get right into it. I'll start with my honorable mentions. They aren't in any order. They're just 5 books that I really like, but for certain reasons didn't quite make the cut for me, and I'll go over those. You'll also see a couple themes running through this year's list, and they're not subtle, so you'll figure them out pretty quickly. First one on my honorable mentions list is this variant for Amazing Spider-Man number 12. I just like, why keep this? What's the point? And like, I know you're trying to advertise for Fantastic Four, but just get rid of all that. Just make it a virgin cover. Awesome illustration, but for me, there was better this year. Gideon Falls number 1. I really loved this idea of making a map and having it be a face. Again, I don't like this. Like, you can do a better job of, like, what is all this? What is this space here? I don't know. Love the cover, but as a whole, with the typography, made it fall short. Cold Spots number 2. This is the uncensored variant for the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund month that Image did. So they released censored and uncensored versions of a number of covers for the comics that were coming out. And none of them were especially vulgar. Some of them had like swears on them, and some of them had some violence, and this one had, like, you know, the cat covered and the chest, which isn't really like anything. And it just said censored or something like that. But and these weren't ratio or anything like that. They just it was to bring attention to censorship in comics, and that's something that, you know, I am pretty passionate about. I really love this illustration. It's creepy and it's weird and it's mystical and magical. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say about it. It's just really good. Let's move on. XMen Blue number 36, variant edition. Mike Allred homage cover to this book, which is one of my all-time favorite covers. So I had to put it in my honorable mentions strictly because of that. It is not as good as this one for a number of reasons. Still a great illustration and still a lot of fun. My last honorable mention is Flash 58 B cover. I don't even read Flash, and this might be the only Flash book I have. But I couldn't help buying this cover. It's just so cool. I think it's super underrated. I didn't see people talking about it when it came out. It's just so graphically interesting and so well designed as a piece to kind of convey his speed in such a really unique way. And I just think it's a cool, really cool, complete, kind of somewhat abstracted image. Really good. Starting off the actual top 10 with number 10, Batman Annual number 2, cover by Lee Weeks. This cover is just so dynamic for me. The motion and the just kinetic energy you get from this with the glass and the poses, and you just feel them crashing through this window. I think maybe I'm a little bit biased towards it because I liked the issue so much, but I don't think that really takes away from what a strong illustration and what a striking cover this is. There's also a second print that has a red background, which also looks pretty cool, but I really prefer the starkness of the white. Coming in at number 9 is Hex Wives number 1, the B cover by Jenny Frison. This series was disappointing, but I wanted to like it so much because of this cover. It creates a world in this one image. It creates this feeling of what I expected the series to be, and maybe that's why I felt like the series fell short, because I had this standard in my mind of what it was going to be because of this cover. The color choice is really bold and contrasty, and I mean both bold in color and in choice. Her expression is very expressive. It tells you something about the character. It tells you it creates a personality, and it's just, Jenny Frison is a master in her class, and yeah, it's just real good. Coming in at number 8 is X-23 number 4. This is just so striking. When I saw this before I went to the comic shop, but when I saw it on the shelf, I was like, okay, I have to buy this book. I'm not reading this comic at the moment, but I can't pass up this cover. It is emotion. It is just, it's so well rendered and illustrated from a technical side, but the portrait of it and what the feeling you get from connecting to this person, and they really did create a person in this cover. It's just remarkable, and you can't look away from it. It draws you in, and it keeps you there, and it's emotion at its core, and it's something that you don't see very often, I think, especially on comic covers, is this feeling that you get from a character. It's this truth of human emotion, and I think it's pretty remarkable. Number 7 is Batman Damned number 2, cover A by Lee Bermejo. Bermejo? Actually not sure how to pronounce that. My apologies. He is a great artist, and this, much like the last cover, is a big face, and much like the last cover, conveys this personality, this rawness, this, in this case, just terrifying presence. It is has this like dangerous sexuality to it, and that sounds kind of gross and weird, but she is just terrifying, but at the same time just completely compelling. The way that they designed the typography for this book as well is very complementary to the images, and I think it really benefits the covers of this, of number 1 and number 2, that they chose to do it this way rather than just have like a big ugly Batman logo at the top. They took the time to design a cover, and so spoiler alert, those are my 2 themes: big faces and considered typography as part of a complete image. And this cover nails both of them. Number 6 is Skyward number 1, second printing, the Jock cover. No big face on this one, but the typography and the way they designed the cover using that title just is incredible. Even though the character is so small on the cover, you still get this exuberance from her, this excitement for life, and this just passion in her pose. And so that off the bat is impressive. And then the fact that they took the time to design a cover around that image, this huge, vast, minimalist background, which is already a check in the plus column for me. But they didn't build it around this, cookie cutter title that they've created. They chose to use the opportunity to create an image including the typography rather than around it, and it really pays dividends because this is top notch. Speaking of which, number 5 is Isola number 1, the A cover. Again, it's a very bold image. It is minimalist in a much different way, but the whole thing is considered as a whole. The text on it is part of the image and contributes to the image rather than taking away from it. It is a designed piece. It's not just an illustration that they put underneath a cover, which I feel like far too many comics do. And I understand that you need to have this recognition for people to see a book on the shelf and say, oh, there's Spider-Man, or there's X-Men, or there's Batman, or whatever the case may be. But when you're trying to create something that is artistic and unique, doing something like this it is worth it by miles to me, because I will pick up this book every time I see something like this, because this, I know that the creators have taken the time to think about everything, and their passion for their product comes through in the fact that they created this image that is just, that's a poster. I would hang that on my wall, and I don't know, maybe there is one. I should go take a look. But again, really good stuff. Number 4 is Wonder Woman 56 B cover by Jenny Frison. The second Frison cover on my list, and I had a very hard time picking which Wonder Woman cover to include from her because I probably could have picked just about anyone from this year and been pretty close to the same position on this list because she killed it with so many of them. But guess what? This one's a big face, and apparently that's what I'm into this year. It's another one that's just like, this is a horror image. This was for the witching hour that they were doing, and it works like gangbusters. It is very it conveys a sense of horror, and it conveys this sense of just mystical, terrifying magic. And she's still, this beautiful, strong Wonder Woman, but the strands of the hair, the way they come down, or just like these small details like that. It's not just the expression. It's just not how pretty she is or how scary she is. It's the stuff like that that just adds to why it's so great. And for me, it is a great companion piece to this Wonder Woman cover. I know they're not really exactly the same, but I feel like, it's very interesting to see this difference between this traditional, strong, beautiful Wonder Woman and this possessed witching hour Wonder Woman. Just tremendous work by Jenny Frison this year. I think she deserves all the credit in the world for the work she's done. Number 3 is from Joshua Middleton, Batgirl 24, cover B. He is another artist who, I could have picked any number of his covers because he did tremendous work this year. Really some all-time great work, and I think he and Frison are kind of in a grudge match for cover artist of the year for me. And I know a lot of people prefer 23, the profile. That's like the big money book from this run that everyone wants, and it is a great cover, but this is just such an interestingly designed image. I love every choice that's made, from the different types of flowers that he uses on each side, to how the bat turns into a real bat, and the coin is all scarred on this side, and it's a remarkable illustration. It's I can talk all day about how well it's drawn, but how well it's conceived is, I think, what really draws me to this cover. Number 2 is really practically 1A, because I went back and forth between my number 1 pick and this as to what I wanted for my number 1, because I really love them both, and I can't really fault either of them for anything. This is Mr. Miracle number 12, the B cover by Mitch Gerads. The series was tremendous, and this represents the series so well beyond being just a tremendous cover. Siri. Darkseid was this running theme of the book, and this huge blackness that is closing in on scot-free Mr. Miracle as he's trying to desperately hold on to what he has left. You know, it's a minimalist cover, so of course I'm going to like it, but it is conceptual beyond first glance. It really conveys kind of the feeling of the story to me, and especially the conclusion. So for me, that really played into how good this cover is. If I hadn't read the issue, I still would have loved the cover as a image on its own, but you know, looking at it in that light of what it means from the story perspective really pushes it over the top for me. So really, really great work. Finally, number one, Die number one by Stephanie Hans. I don't know really what to say about this cover other than it's just absolutely incredible. Again, the use of typography as part of the image. Not only is it considered with the image, it is part of the image. Like if you took that away and made this a virgin cover, I feel like this would actually lose something. Whereas, you know, a lot of virgin covers I think benefit from the lack of trade dress. This really enhances it, which is hard to find. On top of being an incredible illustration, the coloring of it is it grabs you, and it stands out in a crowd, and this shape that they use, this abstract looking red shape, is actually an unfolded 20-sided die, which I thought was so clever. Again, relating to the story, using elements of the story and the design of the cover rather than just an illustration that references characters or something like that. I think the thought that went into this cover and the design of the cover is really what pushes it over the top beyond being something that is just amazing to look at. So that's it, my top 10, 15 covers of the year. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments what some of your covers are, if any of mine made your list, or if you think I'm cuckoo bananas and that I don't know what I'm talking about, because I probably don't. And I hope you stayed to the end to hear me ramble like this. Or maybe I don't. Either way, thanks for watching. I'll turn you back to the audience.